Adrian, you've got a fantastic story. Your company's been running for about 12 years, hasn't it? And you met, I think, 25 years ago. But it'd be great if maybe Barny, do you want to start off with a little bit of the story?
Yeah. So I was sort of thinking about what our story is, and I think we're in a really exciting moment for any kind of business owner, because we are now planning the last few years towards an exit, and everybody that we're speaking to and working with is suggesting that will be a sort of pretty amazing result. It will probably turn out to be, and it's sort of slightly, I don't know about other business owners, but it will turn out to be beyond our wildest dreams, I think it would be fair to say. And it'll probably be about 10 times what our objective was when we set out. And so that's the far end of the story, as it were. But as you say, the start of the story was that Clarke and I both met at business school 25 years ago, and we went and did MBAs, both of us for different reasons. Adrian already knew how to run a business and had been running a business for a while, but didn't have the theory, and I didn't know anything about running a business. And so we went and did MBAs, and we thought at the end of the MBA, I remember the two of us sitting down together with an envelope and sketching out the revenues of the business he was running at the time, and we thought we were going to be very successful in a very short space of time, and actually that went down the pan, didn't it?
It did. Yeah, it was painful.
Thank you.
And it was followed by sort of over the next 13 years. Clarke and I worked together on a few different sort of ventures, and I think it's sort of, I don't know what the makeup of the audience is today. I don't know how many people, I don't know where people are on their journey as entrepreneurs. But for us, we had 13 years where we were both trying different things. We tried things separately, we tried things together, and none of our things really came off, did they? Some of them were more disastrous than others. Some of them you had a very good business, was looking very good at one stage.
I like the way you say at one stage.
Yeah, I managed to muck that up royally.
We're going to talk about mucking things up a bit later on, I think.
But I just think it's, I think the position we're in is that we're probably, we look like we're on track to achieve a sort of really amazing result. And I just think it's kind of an important message is that the road to get here has been long and hard. And, for anybody who's grappling with any kind of difficulties, I think a sort of really key message I want to communicate is not to be discouraged when things are hard, because things are really hard sometimes, and you just have to keep faith and keep going.
So Adrian, what made you sort of want to set up in business with Barny?
Well, it's interesting because we did meet 25 years ago, and the curious thing is that you wouldn't put us together really if you didn't know us. We've got very disparate backgrounds. Barny's well-heeled, well-educated and well-connected, and I am from the other side of the spectrum. And so look, I'm sort of single parent mother, brought 7 kids up. We were hungry children, and it's just a very different view of the world. But I have to say, that has been just the most amazing thing, if you like, for our business, because we view things through a different lens, problems, challenges, opportunities, but we just tended to find a sensible solution for everything going forward. So you haven't just got my view at one end of the scale, Barny's at the other, and we've made some interesting decisions on this journey. But I have to say, most of them have been pretty good. There are a few things out of our control that have affected us from time to time that we've had to adjust to. But working together on things has just been delivered an excellent outcome.
So have you found that the two of you sort of a bit of yin and yang, you even things out? What's your strength and what's your strength, Barny? What's that lady?
So you're asking me what my strength is?
Yeah.
I suppose I'm really I'm the fundamentalist guy of the business. I like looking at business through a business lens, through profit and loss, EBITDA, cash flows, operating cash. And then the truth is I'm obsessed with all of that. But the core thing that we've got centrally is I suppose that's my area of specialisation. But really, it's our values that are similar, in tune and online. So we view everything differently. I love all the mechanics, the fundamentals, but it's really our core values that really, I guess, bind the outcomes, the output, and deliver the results.
Okay, so you're definitely the money man. Barney, what do you bring to the table?
So he's a saver, I'm a spender. So yeah, I really don't care about the money at all, and I just want to do stuff. And so we work in mental health. I'm interested in how can we innovate, how can you help people better, and in my perfect world, money wouldn't exist, because I'm much more interested in putting the people together to achieve the outcomes. And I think that's part of why, I just think being an entrepreneur on your own must be pretty challenging. Well, I know I would find it very challenging because I just don't know enough. I think as an entrepreneur who's trying to lead a business, you need to be jack of so many trades because you need to have a grasp of everything that. And in the early years, you're probably doing it all yourself, and even as you get later on, you're going to have to oversee the management team you do. So, for me, I didn't know enough about the business stuff, and so it was sort of obvious good teaming up with Clarke, and he, I'd been in the army. I'd never run a business, didn't understand anything about business. He had been running a proper business, and I think when we met, we looked at each other and we were like, "Oh, you know something I don't," and that has worked really well. And it's been, there are so many, managing a business is so much about decision making, and I'm an okay decision maker, but I'm not a perfect decision maker, and I don't really know that everybody is. And I think it's been a huge asset to us that, we really make an awful lot of the decisions at Kenneth Clarke's we do together. We do in very unscientific ways. We sometimes, if we're trying to come up with a number, we'll take a piece of paper, rip it in half, each take a bit of writing number on it and go 3, 2, 1, hold it up, you go, yeah, okay, fine.
First top tip.
Yeah,
Take a piece of paper in half and share it.
It's not very scientific, but it's actually worked extremely well over the years. So yeah, I do think, and there are times, I think emotion affects decision making so much. And when you're running a business, there are times when my emotions will be affected. I might be angry with somebody who's got something wrong or whatever, and then I might be brewing up to make a wrong decision and probably behave in a way that wouldn't be very constructive. Adrian always acts as the sort of conscience of the business. He's always the wiser, calmer person, and he'll say, "No, actually," and he's certainly helped me avoid a lot of errors over the years. But I think equally, I'm more gung ho. I've got a higher risk appetite, and I'm not interested in the money, and so I've probably pushed him to grow bigger and faster than somebody who was being cautious and prudent when it had done. So it's been brilliant having two, as you say, the unifying thing of having shared values makes it perfect. So we kind of believe fundamentally in the same things.
Yes, yeah. You asked earlier about the audience today. We're looking at those that are attending today. We've got people that are sole traders, we've got people that are partnerships, limited companies, some are just themselves with no members of staff, others they've got large teams. So we appeal, if that's the right word, to a wide range of business types. So the tips, people will be somewhere on your journey line. And we titled this "Doing Business brilliantly with a question mark, because you're not sat here saying this is how to run a business. You're here saying this is your story, and if you can help somebody watching to avoid the pitfalls that you've stumbled over, then I think that would be a really good thing. And we were talking before we started about some of the key factors that you feel have helped you on that journey. And you were talking about things like integrity, for example. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you came together and sort of agreed on what the business vision would look like, I suppose, and culture? Did you have that conversation ever?
Do you want to go first or shall I? Go on, you go first.
Okay. So for me on this one, integrity, it pretty much, because as a younger person, you make mistakes, you do dumb things. And I think both he and I had done plenty of that before we sort of came together. And at the point we came together, we were both, I guess, looking to have some more knowledge and change the way that we operate. So I just think having honesty and integrity, it was really unspoken at the beginning, but he and I have been absolutely straight with each other from the day we met until today. I mean, it's been an amazing, eye-opening thing that with another human being, you can be absolutely honest about everything in personal life, business life, choices, decisions, mistakes that have been made, and on the journey really together of, I don't know what you'd call it, but just operating at a much higher level of decentness, integrity, looking to give more than you take, looking to add value. And I think that's really been at the core of both of us for 25 years. And not only has that been super helpful personally, because we're like that with each other, we treat everybody the same. And that would be suppliers, people that work with us and trust in us, and certainly our customers. So we treat people how we'd like to be treated. If that helps with the integrity question.
Yeah, definitely. You said earlier that it sort of helped when you're dealing with, asking for funds or with customers, as you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think trust is sort of central to business activity taking place, whether it's customers buying stuff, funders funding you, employees deciding to be employed by you. It's an enabler. It's not that you can't do business in a dishonest way, because of course you can, and you may get away with it for quite a long time, but it really oils the wheels if everybody knows where they stand with you. And I think, as you say, it's everybody. It just comes out in the way that you treat everybody, and it's an enabler. It means more people want to come and work for you, more people want to buy stuff from you, more people want to, be involved with you in all ways.
Do you think you thought of that because of the line of work that you're in? I mean, clinical partners obviously offers sort of mental health support in various different guises. Do you think that sort of linked at all?
I'm not sure how much it does actually. I mean, I think, in relation to integrity, my personal start point is not necessarily to behave in a very good way. The kind of human being I am, I'm quite if I'm under pressure, and all business owners are under huge pressure periodically. If I'm under pressure, am I always going to choose the most virtuous and honest path ahead? But if I was on my own, possibly not. Or possibly not as often as I would. But actually, if there's two of us together, and the lovely thing about being honest with each other is we can, you might be under pressure, there might be a shortcut that maybe isn't quite wouldn't stand up to close scrutiny, and we'll look at it together and we'll go, we could do that, couldn't we? And then because there's two of us, we can kind of go, better not though. And I just think those it's so interesting having this conversation, because actually so much of what I think has been really important in the journey is psychological, because it is the sort of journey, it is growing your credibility by winning people's trust. I think that one of the things that's most important is self-belief. And I know for me, when I started out doing clinical plans, I had very little confidence, very little self-belief that this would actually work out. And, 12 years later, probably we're both feeling a bit more confident now. But that's a sort of, I think that's a really important thing. And I think for anybody, I think self-doubt, I guess that, the majority of entrepreneurs, business owners in their first 5 years probably have quite a lot of brushes with self-doubt and lack of self-belief. And I think it does just take time and persistence and determination that, after a few years, you just look at yourself and think, I've got this. I can do this. But I think it grows all the time.
And that sort of brings us on a little bit to the planning side of things, the self-doubt. If you've made a plan, then perhaps you can look at that and have less self-doubt, because actually you plan to go from A to B to C. Did you actually sit down and have a strategic plan that you created when you started the business, and have you kept it? Go on, Adrian. The money man, have you kept it? Go on, be honest.
So it's interesting. So when we first set off, of course, on the journey, we did a business plan, we've done the numbers and the forecast, and it's business day one, and here's the forecast we've got, and off we go. And probably if we achieve 10% of what our original starting forecast was, that's the reality. And then, of course, you get past the first year and you think, okay, we've done 10% of what we thought we would. This isn't great. But all that does is it forces you really to look at the job a bit more realistically and say, hey, do you know what? Maybe this is going to take us a little bit longer. Let's readjust our forecasting going forward. So we've got better and better as the years have gone on, and more confident in our forecasting in terms of we're very confident that what we're predicting, the outcomes are achievable. Whereas when we came straight out of business school, 10 years later, did our first forecast for clinical partners, that was really our best, I guess, effort or dream at the time, that we thought, hey, we're MBAs, we've got a bit of experience, we're ready to go. And the truth is, I guess from my experience over time, is that actually the truth is, it just takes you longer than you think it will. It's going to cost you more, and there's going to be a few more bumps on the journey.
So from a financial point of view, I can understand that part. From your side of things, Barny, did you have sort of a plan? What was your sort of motivation and plans? What did you want to get out of it?
Well, there's an aspect of the plan which we did stick to, which was that, so we were working in healthcare, and what we did say, I'd seen a couple of businesses that were trying to innovate, trying to launch themselves as businesses with an innovation. And I think that's kind of you're doubling up on difficulties. And so I'd seen products trying to come to market where the market wasn't ready for them. So we did say when we started out, we said, let's not try and do anything new. Let's just try and do the same as everyone else is doing, but let's just try and do it well, safely and well. We'll do that for a few years until we're big enough that we can afford to innovate. And we're in year 12 now, and we are at the threshold of innovating now. So it's taken us an amazingly long time to get here. I'm really surprised by how long that's taken. So, and the other, so as Adrian said, I mean, our business plan for our first year, I wish I could find it now, because it would just roll about on the floor laughing at the optimism of it. And as you said, with each successive year, you get better at planning and more confident about what the future is likely to look like. So, and I'm a big fan of having a plan, but I'm also a big fan of treating it with some degree of skepticism, because you're always reading tea leaves, aren't you?
Yeah.
And we've got to do a bunch of sort of 3-year forecasts for the bank. And I just sort of think, who knows what will be happening in 3 years from now? No idea. Could be anything. I'm not sure it's worth the time and trouble of writing it down, but we'll do it.
I think one of the key points that you raised there, Adrian, is the fact that things usually cost more than you estimate, and they take longer. So anyone that's watched Grand Designs will know that.
Yes.
I often think DIY is quite similar to running a business in that respect. But,
for sure.
So you mentioned patience, or indicated that you were talking about patience there, and it's taken a long time. You're still not quite at the innovation, and you thought you'd be there years ago. But I know it took you sort of about, is it 7 years to get your first NHS contract? Can you perhaps share some of that story with the viewers?
Yeah. Yes. So the other day I was talking to a venture capital firm, and they were talking about a business they wanted back, and they were saying, well, of course, we always think it takes 6 years for a new company to get to the point of selling something to the NHS. And I thought, well, I wish someone had told me that. And it took us 7. And I just, selling to large organisations, I hadn't really understood what a long, slow game that was. Our experience with the NHS, what we did was we started selling stuff on the internet because, it's kind of easy. And the web marketing learning journey has been a long and expensive one. And we've got pretty amazing results from that now. But we've definitely burnt a few pounds over the years, which we haven't necessarily seen value from. So we started by selling stuff on the internet. We did 7 years of that, and then we were asked by an NHS commissioner to deliver a tiny piece of work, which we did without anything going wrong. Then they gave us a slightly bigger one, and now the NHS revenues are doubling year on year. Last year they were 10 million quid. Next year they'll be 20 million quid. And the NHS has got far more work for us than we can possibly deliver. And they would like us to be doing more. So that's been an interesting educational journey.
So for anyone wanting to get into, obviously your experience in the NHS, but in government contracts are more similar. You talked about it took a while, and then this NHS commission talked to you. Were you talking with the NHS or putting forward applications over those first sort of 6 or 7 years?
I don't think we were. I didn't even know how that first one, was it Emily?
So it was Emily, and so for the first 7 years, we were looking at the NHS, wondering how can we break into that market or that opportunity, and we never could really, we were doing networking, attending conferences and things like that, but we never really, got the we never felt we got the opportunity to do anything as a consequence of that. And then literally one day out of the blue, an NHS trust contacted us via the website, and we had a lady working for us called Emily, who was sort of keen as mustard to do something to help, and off she went and spoke to them, and literally
she was an NHS management accountant before she was with us.
She was,
So she spoke their language, and I think going back to the thing about trust, with us and the NHS, and obviously kind of privatisation of healthcare is very controversial, and we genuinely, we hardly make any profits at all. We're not profiteering by any measure, and we just really love what we do, and we love having the opportunity to work with the NHS to look after people. And the NHS is an amazing organisation that does some incredible things. It's also got some well-known, obviously enormous challenges, and we can help them with, in a tiny way. In the scale of the NHS, we're a flea on an elephant, but we are able to help one or two things we're quite good at, and that's just a real pleasure. And it does all hinge around trust, because they know that we can be trusted to do a safe, high quality, good value piece of work.
Yeah, And you mentioned earlier on that your business journey was a mixture of fun, luck, and disasters. And I guess the NHS, to a certain extent, then was a little bit of luck that they sort of came to you, but you'd set up a good website, so they were able to see that you were a decent egg, if you like, as far as a company goes. So, is your website really important to you? Is that something that you set out to set up initially when you first started?
So it was the first thing we built, because we didn't have a physical presence on day one. We might have had some rented consulting rooms, but so we did start with a website, and there's a website called Wayback Machine where you can put in your website address, and it takes snapshots of all websites over time.
Okay.
So we can see what our website looked like in 2011, and that's evolved, and we're building a new website this year, and the budget for that's £1 million.
Wow. Okay.
So it kind of, but it just, I'm only saying that because it gives you a sense that the budget for the first one was probably £20,000. I think it was £20,000. And it's kind of, it's just fun. Our website, even today, our website is, you can't buy anything on it. So we don't have any e-commerce functionality. It's really just a library of sort of about 700 pages of interesting stuff about mental health conditions. So it's a library of knowledge, but until someone pointed, somebody said to us, "You have noticed you can't buy anything on your website," and we're like, "Oh, we hadn't really appreciated that we've done that." So that's an exciting, the whole digital opportunity is so vast that we were sitting chatting this morning and agreeing that from a business perspective, there is this, everyone's very excited about digital and all the clever things that digital can do for us. And yes, it can do all these exciting things, but a lot of it is so expensive that actually you can land up with some very clever toys that look wonderful, but you haven't made any money. And certainly we find tech is racingly expensive, but fun. So we keep doing it.
Yeah, it is important, and I think it's making use of it. And as you've said, there's plenty out there, but making sure you've got the right stuff and the right people advising you. And I know that we've got an awful lot of businesses that we help and talk to that don't always get that bit right, and it's hard because there's so many people out there offering their services. Okay, if we move on to the adding value and the doing good and the people side of things, when were you sort of first able to start supporting some of the local charities and that sort of thing? Because I know that's something that you get involved with as well.
Well, we're still only doing that on a tiny scale at the moment, but it's something that we're very keen on. I mean, I think there are different aspects of what you were saying. There's the sort of people aspect of the business, which for me is probably the most exciting part of the business. The sort of trying to give something back, and in the stage that we're at is we haven't got all that much to give back. We've created a lot of value in the business, but actually there's not vast amounts of disposable cash. So the support that we give to other organisations is as much as we can afford to at the moment. We're involved with a Ukrainian child psychiatrist who's an amazing man. So we've done a bit to support the work he's been doing with Ukrainian refugees, and he's just incredible. And we support Julius House, which is you're probably familiar with it, hospice provider, children's hospice provider. So again, kind of unbelievable things to be doing. And we've been involved in one or two other bits and bobs as well. But so they're sort of trying to give something back. I mean, I think that's a cool thing. And so Adrian and I really admire. There are a number of businesses that we really admire, who are the businesses that you can see are really living their values. And when you look at organisations like Richer Sounds, which has just been sold to an employee ownership trust, but has always treated its employees in an incredibly generous, humane, decent way. And then another organisation that we really admire is Timpson. And Timpson are obviously very well known for the amazing things they do. I think it was the founder of Timpson, was it like Sir John Timpson or somebody? It was like way back, well, I think in the sort of start, I'm not sure he wasn't adopted or fostered. I think the reason why Timpsons are so committed to supporting children in care is because I think, and I might have that completely wrong, but what I do know is that reading their accounts, the last set of Timpson accounts I was reading that year, I think they gave £250,000 to look after children. And it's like, that's really impressive. So, you know, Clinical Partners doesn't have the resources to do anything like that at the moment. We do what little we can, but, you know, as we get bigger, we hope to be able to do more. And it's just, you know, that's incredibly rewarding. To be honest, that's, you know, thinking about the entrepreneur's journey in as long as it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, if you're lucky, you're going to get some kind of result at the end of it. But I think those sorts of things of being able to contribute and give something back are what makes the journey, you know, one of the things that makes the journey so special and to make it kind of enjoyable and rewarding. I think, you know, you don't want to be spending your whole life sitting around waiting for a result right at the end.
And if I could just add to that, really, that the reason Timpson's impresses is because the founder, if you like, he and his wife fostered something like 100 children and needy children. And for us, we talk about this type of thing literally all the time. We're looking for ways to just add a bit of value. So so they did that. We found out about that very early on. This is years ago, before we even started Clinical Partners. It's just one of them organisations that not only, I mean, look, they're very profitable, but they just do some amazingly good deeds and good works. And I guess that's an aspiration of ours. So we do what we can with the resources we've currently got. And as Barny said, you know, we do support Julia's House on a regular basis, and we're in regular contact with them, and we're going to do more with them as finances allow. But over and above that, our people from day one, we've had all sorts of individuals that have tripped up or fallen over, and we've turned up and helped them out in various ways. And we never really talk about that to anybody. We just do it. So why I'm saying this now in this arena, I don't really know, but we just get on and do that if we can. And even when we were losing money, look, if somebody fell over and we could help them, we just tried to do the right thing. Now, Barney's saying we're doing small contributions at the minute to one or two charities, which we are, and we'd like to do more, but the reality is, as a commercial organisation, you can only do that when you've got the funds to do it. And pretty much all of our funds for the last 12 years, none of them have gone back to shareholders in terms of dividends or anything like that. It's all gone back into investing in improving services and growing the business. If that adequately value.
For sure. For sure.
And you're talking about your people there, and you clearly value your team, and you've expanded quite considerably from when you started. But you did mention that there was a time when actually, as much as you want to support them, you had to make some people redundant. Can you talk a little bit about that scenario? Because I think there's an awful lot of fear about making people redundant. It's not nice.
Yeah. Well, I think he's a nicer person than me. So I'm more ruthless, and I'm quite determined to get to where I'm getting to. So, and I think we also, just going back to the point about kind of being honest with each other, but you also, sometimes you've got to be honest with yourself. Like, this spreadsheet does not look good. bad times are coming, and in those situations, I mean, we had one time when we had probably 95% of our revenues were generated by the website, and the website at the time got 2 million visitors a year on it, and one day, out of the blue, Google dropped that from 2 million visitors a year to 200,000 visitors a year. So we, the phones went quiet, the tills went quiet, and it kind of happened overnight. And we rang our digital marketing people and we said, something awful's happened. And they said, well, it may be the weather, it may be the time of year. And we were like, I don't think so. It has dropped by 90% overnight. And Google are constantly making algorithm updates, and lots of businesses are very exposed to that. We're a little bit less exposed now than we used to be. So that happened, and in that situation, you've just got to be completely. You've got to do what needs to be done, however painful that is for everybody. And I think it is painful for everybody. It's painful for the people making the redundancies. It's painful for people being made redundant. I don't think the process is, we haven't really talked about sort of employment law and the sort of employee relations, but we've always had amazingly good employee relationships because we've hired lovely people. And I think that's a really key. It's one of the things we tell ourselves that we're really good at is we've hired wonderful people really all the way along. And I think as we hire sensible people. We don't hire people with big egos. We don't hire people who are obviously, we have hired actually people over the years who are obviously unsuited to the job. So we haven't always got it right, but we've sorted it out and we've got there. So when tough times come, you have to wield the knife, and it's painful. The processes, the legal processes, I think, are very good. They're well designed. All you have to do is follow them. We have always, I've seen a lot of HR law disasters over my lifetime, almost all of which were self-inflicted injuries. We subscribe to a very reasonably priced HR advice service, and they've just, you pay, when we were tiny, I think we paid 50 quid a month. It was something like that. And they're called Peninsula, I don't know, I should get some commission for plugging them. But
other services are available.
Other services are available, but I probably used them for 20 years, something like that. And it's kind of reasonably priced. You get somebody on the phone straight away, you say, this is what's going on, I don't really know what to do. And they give you sensible, objective advice. And I think those, when things go wrong in the employment relationship, it's so difficult for everybody. It's so easy for it to all unravel very quickly and turn into an awful slanging match. And I do think it's so valuable to have somebody who doesn't care what you think or feel about it and how cross you are that they did or didn't do what you wanted them to do, and they can just give you objective advice. So, the employing people, there are just, in growing a business, there's just so much to learn about every aspect of the business, and employing and managing people is such a, that's an amazing subject, fascinating subject. I bumped into a friend the other day who is kind of a new friend. I don't know him all that well, and he runs a business, and it was kind of mid-morning, and I was rushing from one meeting to another, and he was sitting in a cafe relaxing with a delicious-looking mid-morning breakfast, and I said, "Hey, how's it going?" I said, "Aren't you supposed to be running a business?" And he said, "Well, I used to really boss everyone around at work, and I was really mean to everyone." He said, and over the last few years, I've realised that you just pay people really well, and you're really nice to them. Just get on with it. And I thought, there's a lot of truth in that. Look after people, show them respect, give them opportunities. Everybody wants to grow and develop. I was talking to somebody yesterday who's frustrated in their work. They can't see a path ahead, and I think that's so important for everybody. Is okay. Am I doing okay today? Is there a future that I can believe in? is there a path ahead for me where I'm going to grow and develop? I'm going to meet whatever goals I might have in my life. And it's a wonderful experience watching people moving along that journey. And we've got somebody who works for us who started with us 8 years ago. And they were on a salary 8 years ago that would be miles below the minimum wage today. And they were 25 and sort of nervous 25-year-old, start on a very low salary. And today they run a bit of a business that they run the NHS operations, £10 million of operations a year, and they are heading that up. So she's now 33, she's got married in that time, she's had 2 children, and just watching her growing in confidence and all that sort of thing, and she now earns quite a lot of money. So I think it's a thrilling part of the business ownership experience is the sort of, it's kind of parenting to some extent, isn't it? It's bringing the younger people along with you and helping them grow. It's really fun.
So did either of you, either through the MBA or specifically, have any management training, leadership training, if you like?
I prior to that.
Yeah.
Pretty much throughout my career, I pretty much self-funded all my own training and development, other than when I joined a UK PLC for a 7-year period and they did some additional training. But prior to that, there was various sort of training courses, management training courses that I attended, but pretty much I funded that myself.
Right. Yeah. And Army give you any training on leadership, or do you think that's?
I think the Army would say that they train you in leadership. I don't know if I was paying attention when they were trying to teach me that, but yeah. So I think Sandhurst has got. I can't actually remember anything they told us about leadership, but
all that taxpayers' money, and you can't remember any of it.
Well, we didn't get attacked by the Russians while I was there, so I'm not going to take sole credit for that. But that's what we got for your pounds. So I guess the Army does have that, and I think a lot of it comes down to life experience, because it is sort of how are you going to behave as a human being, how are you going to treat other human beings, and I think some people, without wishing to get too psychobabble, but if you grew up in a very functional household, you probably were taught all of that stuff in childhood and adolescence, and you kind of probably leave university knowing how to behave as a human being. And for other people, they may have learned more or less of that stuff in those formative years, and they may have more or less stuff to learn in adulthood. And for me, as it happens, I had a lot to learn in adulthood, so and probably still have. But so yeah, I think it's slightly learning how to be a human in sometimes quite challenging circumstances. So
yeah, I always find it quite interesting because very often somebody that sets up a business has that idea of building a widget or creating a platform or offering a service, but they don't necessarily have any of that training. It was interesting because it's clear from you both that you know the integrity and the caring side of you, you're looking after your people, but whether or not there was any training to do that, or whether that, as you say, comes sort of naturally, and I guess there's a little bit of both when this management training is concerned. But all right, thank you for sharing that. And you talked when we were chatting about some of your role models. You mentioned Timpson's there, and do you sort of want to be seen as business models yourself for either your staff or people around you?
Great question, and I'll speak for me on this one. My drive, really, I'm not looking to be seen as that. I'm looking to be that. I'm looking just to do that. So I guess I'm not looking for the glory of that. I'm just, I guess part of my search is to do the right thing, add more value, give more back. And look, I am a commercial person, so notwithstanding, Barny just say that I'm the nice one, and he's right. But I am a commercial person as well, and you know, the purpose of business is to produce a positive outcome, a positive result, and so I am very focused on that as well. So I think, and it's getting the balance right between being and doing the right thing by others and having more value, but not actually doing it, giving it all away, and not having a foundation that you can sustainably add further value from.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I don't think that either of us are looking to sort of present ourselves as role models. I mean, you know, we're both fathers, so I think you know, as a dad, you inevitably are a role model. And I also think as a business leader, you are inevitably a role model. And I really remember what it was like being 22, 23, arriving in a workplace, absolutely clueless, terrified, pretty much waiting for the tap on the shoulder at any moment for somebody to say, "There's been a mistake, just get out, we don't need you here." And I remember how much I looked up to there were some very, very old people where I worked when I was in my mid-20s. They were probably 41 or something, but to me they seemed ancient. And but I did, you know, they weren't necessarily deliberately trying to teach me stuff, but I was watching them and I was learning from them. And as it happened, there were two guys where I was working at that time, and they were both just fantastic men and fantastic examples of people running a business. As it happens, they were very much like us. There was a posh one and a Yorkshireman. And they were and the Yorkshireman was always like, you know, the other one never got an hang of the numbers and stuff. And the Yorkshireman was like, no, you can't do that. They're making everything work. So I was learning a lot from them, and I guess that our young people who are working in our business are also learning from observing us. So I think we are role models whether we want to be or not. But actually, and I think he and I don't want to promote ourselves as role models to anybody, particularly other than what you kind of have to be. But I would like the business to be an example of a really wholesome business. And I think if that, you know, if we have looked at Richard Sands and Timpson and businesses like that and been inspired by them about what a really good business can be, and if we can make Clinical Partners into that kind of organisation, and if that can inspire anybody else to do the same, then I think that would be great.
Okay, you mentioned about the business journey and your view of it, but your partners, your wives, you spent, what, 10, 11 years before you sort of felt that it was really going anywhere, you're still not innovating. Did they know that it was going to take this long to sort of get to this stage?
Oh, no. I mean, look, I guess to a degree we believed we were going to start the business and we were going to be successful. That's what we believed right from the off. So, of course, you share that with your wife, partner, nearest and dearest, with all the self-belief that, hey, we're off on a journey, come along with us, it's going to be great. And the reality is that you set off with that, you've raised the expectation bar, and then clearly you under-deliver massively, and then of course that just creates some tensions on the journey of realising your dream. And it's, you know, we're 12 years into it. Really, before the business started getting any traction, we were sort of 8 or 9 years really getting to that point. So that's quite a journey for a wife, partner, or significant other that's on that journey with you, and you keep saying, hang in there, believe it'll be fine, and actually everything that you're generating and doing, and all your focus is on the mission. Anything that you generate, any financial rewards that you generate are going back into the business, and therefore
what's in it for them.
Yeah. So I think it is tricky. I think it's very tough, and I think they've got as much of the journey as the entrepreneur.
And you moved your family down to Wiltshire.
Yes, yeah, and that was that was really a moment of truth for my wife and I. Who, look, I will say this: I love my wife. We've been together for 36 years, so she's really been on the full journey of the growth of Adrian and Clarke. But we had a moment of truth when I said, hey, it looks like Clinical Partners might be going somewhere. Here's, we're 3 years into that journey, and it wasn't great, but there was just a flicker that maybe we could do something. Hey, do you fancy moving 250 miles down south? Seemed like a great idea to me. And that just created a moment where anything could have happened. But being the entrepreneurial type and having certainty, I was sort of going, and Debbie just had to decide whether she was coming along or not. And that is, I don't want that to sound flippant, because it isn't. It was massive. But anyway, thankfully she decided to hang about. She's still here, so we're all good.
And thankfully so is Clinical Partners.
Yeah, quite.
And Barny, did you have any sort of similar situations with your wife?
Yeah, so we talked about this, and I mean, it's only relatively recently that I've appreciated how hard it has been for my wife, and actually for the kids. It's an interesting thing for the kids, because of course children growing up are thinking, what kind of family am I part of? Are we a successful family? Are we not a successful family? Or what are we? And so I think they are all forced to come on the journey with you. I think someone's signalling to us 5 minutes, and so they're forced to come on the journey with you, whether they like it or not, and they don't have any control over it. And it has been an emotional rollercoaster ride, and so I think it's very tough for wives and families, and hopefully they will get to benefit when things come good. We had a valuation of our business, and we were chatting about value of our business with somebody this week, and they sort of said, yeah, we're probably in the right ballpark, what do you think? And it's a decent number. And I went home to my wife and said, hey, we had a meeting today with XYZ, and they agreed that Clinical Partners is worth X. And my wife just looked at me and said, so what does that mean? And I was like, absolutely nothing. It doesn't change anything. We're not going to get. We're still going to be short of money. We gave ourselves a pay rise earlier this year, and then we had to reverse it because the cost of living crisis. Yeah. So it is, families, and particularly wives or husbands or whoever, do have to live with the uncertainty, the ups, the downs, and certainly for me, I didn't appreciate what a big burden I was putting on my wife. And as I said to you earlier, she could not be any less interested in financial success or anything like that. She'd much rather I was a plumber or electrician or anything like that. She'd be thrilled.
Yeah, but it highlights to me anyway that it is important to consider the others around you, and you are saying that your staff and your teams and things like that. So we have got the 5 minutes. So just can you talk to me a little bit about setting up your senior management team? So not everybody watching will be at that time in their journey, but
sure.
How did that come
sure.
about?
So I know I've got a secret agenda, which is why I'm going to answer this question before you get a chance to start talking, because I know we've got very little time left, and I just wanted so the SMT. So Adrian and I were running the business pretty much together, sort of in lockstep for the first pretty much 10 years. And then it got to a scale where just gradually, within certain specialisms, we would think, we can't do this anymore, we're going to have to get someone in to do that. But we were starting to grow, so you could afford to employ a chief marketing officer, and we've got one of those, part-time, flexible, but now he's permanent, full-time, and all that sort of thing. So that's been it's actually been an amazing experience. We land up with a senior management team of 8 people, finance, tech, governance, 2 ops people, some biz dev people, all sorts of people, medical director. And it is one of our huge successes has been, we've hired wonderful people. So that's been a joy. They cost about £1 million a year now, that senior management team. And so that's been a significant investment. And just, on the subject of investment, it's been so fascinating that we haven't talked about investment at all today, or finance or funding, but that's been a fascinating journey. The bank always laughed in our face whenever we asked them for money, without fail. We once got lucky, there was one guy, bank manager in Salisbury called Martin.
Yes.
And he came for lunch and he liked us and he gave us £300,000 loan when nobody else would touch us with a barge pole. So it wasn't that we struck out 100% of the time. We did get lucky once with him. But it was an education for us to understand how risk averse high street banks are, and they're not interested in having any kind of business risk. So that was a real education. We are now besieged by private equity companies who all want to essentially just mug us and take the business for absolutely nothing, and then make it worth a lot. Fine, not really want to go down that route. So we've been incredibly lucky. We were incredibly lucky. I don't know how we came to meet with Phil Clement.
Detailed morning breakfast meeting.
Okay. So we were introduced.
Good old networking.
Yeah. So we were introduced to Phil from the SWLEP.
Yeah.
And that was a few years ago. And the SWLEP's role in supporting SMEs and helping to stimulate employment, we love that. It meshes exactly with, we are trying to employ people, we're trying to grow. It's hard to access finance on any kind of sensible terms. And the SWLEP has been amazing in providing finance, not with horrendous terms on it, which, mostly the bank would just laugh in your face, but if they're going to give you anything, they're definitely going to have at least one of your children if anything goes wrong. So the SWLEP's given us reasonably priced money on sensible terms when others wouldn't. And that actually has been priceless for us. We've employed 100 people in the last 12 months. We're going to employ another 132 full-time equivalents in this coming year. And that has been really essential to that. Sorry.
I just wanted to make sure we got that in.
Thank you. That's not the reason why we invited you here today, but part of the relationship.
But look, when you turned up with the funding, for us to realise our ambitions, we absolutely needed the funding.
Yeah.
Or the loans.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've been the rocket fuel that's got us from being just a steady little business into, we're not far off being a medium-sized enterprise.
Yeah.
And that funding has allowed us to do that. So it is important that we just say that for what it is. Super helpful.
Well, thank you. And thank you for sharing just some of your journey and bits of it. And as you say, there's bits that we didn't go into great detail about that we could have done, but I could sit here for hours and talk to you and just hear your stories and your journey. So I hope that the audience have enjoyed it as well. And just thank you very much for your time. Thank you again for the sponsorship of the conference. And we're going to hand over to Paddy.